Hey guys, Mikari here, and in today's video I wanted to go over what I think Bakugou's awakened quirk ability could be. And this is kind of going to be the first part of a small series I'm doing where I go over everyone's potential awakenings, and Bakugou is first up right now. An awakening to me could just be that somebody gains more control over their ability, and a good example of this would be Kirishima using Red Riot Unbreakable. Or it could be someone's quirk really going above and beyond and completely changing, the functions of it, or completely changing to a different level, kind of like Sun Eater in the latest chapter of My Hero Academia. But now that we've kind of cleared all of this up, let's get straight into the video. Bakugou, in my opinion, is the most likely candidate to get a quirk awakening in the next couple chapters. We've seen that his ultimate move against Shigaraki, although powerful, wasn't really enough to even scratch him, and I really find this odd considering the sheer scale of the explosion and the fact that it's Bakugou that did it and nothing really of note happened to Shigaraki. And we all know that Bakugou is the most popular My Hero Academia character, and Horikoshi genuinely loves him, so I feel he's definitely going to get a bit of a bigger moment during this arc. And I've seen a lot of different theories by subscribers and viewers alike on my other Bakugou related videos, so I've kind of put all of these together and come up with my own kind of take on what his quirk awakening would be. And I think it's going to be basically a field kind of around Bakugou that can emit explosions kind of all over his body. I'd imagine that it can really detect anything that comes within that field of Bakugou and he can actually explode it. Or it could just be as simple as, he controls the explosions, but he can emit them all over his body, and these explosions are going to be no pushover. And I really do think this might be possible because maybe like he's able to use the nitroglycerin sweat all over his body or something else. But I definitely do think he's going to have just a full body kind of explosion that he can give off, and these explosions are going to be scaling very, very high. I'm thinking that the explosions he's going to be able to use right now are definitely going to be able to actually damage Shigaraki, at least in his quirkless state, but they're definitely going to be able to do more damage or do more than his ultimate move is even able to do. And I've even seen some viewers saying that maybe his explosions could also have like a sort of plasma element added to them to even give them more power and more explosive ability, and just more raw destructive power added on to already the fact that he can emit the explosions from anywhere on his body, and also maybe even like throw off attacks. Like an attack tries to hit him, he can detect it in that explosion radius field around him and he can blow it away, so he's almost going to be untouchable while having a very, very good offense. And of course, adding plasma to this would be almost overkill. It would make it a very, very competitive ability, something very strong that he has to use. And I'm not sure if there would be like a sort of time limit to this. There might be, since this would be his first time using it, but I definitely think if he shows this off, it's going to be very powerful. And I also think that those it would kind of be similar to how Nejire has those energy waves kind of like drawn around here. It would be kind of similar to that when we see Bakugou. It would just be like kind of like this weird field around him that it shows off like mini explosions going off, and he would be able to control them. He'd be able to detect things that are coming near him, and it would honestly look very cool in my opinion. And of course, like I said before, it would be explained that the reason he's able to even emit this field is just the fact that he's able to kind of use not just the nitroglycerin in his palms, which is usually how he uses his abilities. He straight up uses his, hands, and that's how he does his moves. It would be that his whole body can emit that sweat with nitroglycerin. He's able to use his whole body as a sort of weapon. So it's kind of like the more he starts to sweat whole body, since he's sweating everywhere else, it's not just its hands, he's able to become even stronger really. So the more you push him, the stronger he kind of gets. And when his whole body gets very active, very sweaty, and there's a bunch of nitroglycerin everywhere added with plasma, it would make his quirk something that is going to be feared by everybody alike. I think this would tie into my running theory that he's related to the second user very well, due to it being a complete release of energy similar to what I think the second user's quirk is, on top of being a more complicated version of the quirk. Since Bakugou, in my theory, I think that he's actually related to the second user, and he's technically a couple generations down the line from the original version of the quirk, so it's definitely going to be different. Quirk singularity, and like the quirks themselves, they'll start off as something and they'll end up in something kind of different. And they'll have like added effects to them, added perks, so I definitely think that's going to be the case with his quirk, and it's going to be very similar to what the second user's quirk is, very similar to what we might see Deku use later on in the story, or maybe even in the next couple chapters. But it's going to be different in the fact that he has to use nitroglycerin, or he has to use sweat certain things compared to maybe the second user's quirk just being a raw release of energy in some form or fashion, and Deku's going to use that. And I definitely think that in the next couple chapters, we're going to kind of have a moment where maybe Bakugou or Deku is kind of able to talk to each other. Maybe even Deku or Bakugou could go into the vestige world and even see the second user and be like, whoa, like, you look very similar to me. And like, we'll kind of get a moment where they're like, yeah, I am, because I'm related to you, or in some way related to the second user. But I definitely do think something like that happening is very plausible. Another thing I find very cool about this theory, and if this is all true, is that this would kind of tie into the community theory that the lightning effects around Deku might be from the second user's quirk. And if this is true, it kind of makes sense that Bakugou's awakening ability is that he's able to have a sort of field of explosions around him if Deku is having that lightning, and if that lightning really is related to the second user's quirk, some form of release of energy. It makes sense that they're both able to kind of do these field emissions around them, and it would even more, give credence or give proof that Bakugou's awakening or his quirk really is this, and that he really is related to the second user. If their quirks both kind of have the same function, and they're very similar, just a little bit different, just because Bakugou's farther down the line from where the second user's quirk was. I definitely do think that Bakugou is probably going to awaken to this after meeting up with Deku or learning about Deku in some form or fashion, or somebody's going to talk to him, but I definitely do think there's going to be a sort of catalyst to him awakening his ability, and he's going to have to talk to somebody or learn something to kind of realize that, I do have this latent talent, this latent ability that I can use, and he's definitely going to do that. Learning that he's actually related to the second user is going to be a very good catalyst for him to grow and awaken his abilities, and I definitely do think this would be a very good kind of morale boost to him, since we've seen that in the past couple chapters. The All For One Shigaraki mix has really been kind of getting into his head and making him think that, maybe he's inferior, maybe he's not good. So I definitely do think that him learning that, he's actually related to a great person, somebody that's very strong, and he'll kind of remember that, yeah, I already said that I'm going down my own path and I'm going to do things my own way. So I definitely do think that him learning or about the second user, or if that's true, it's always going to be something good for him, and he's going to benefit greatly from this. And of course, to reiterate again, I definitely do think that his awakening ability, this field of emissions of explosions around him, is definitely going to be very strong, and it might honestly be comparable to whatever Deku can use with the second user's quirk, since they're going to be similar. So I don't know if it's going to be just as strong, since obviously the second user's quirk has been sitting in All For One for so long, fermenting and becoming even stronger than what it was. But I definitely do want to see a moment where Deku and Bakugou are fighting together, and they're very comparable in strength, since Bakugou definitely deserves it, since he's basically the second protagonist of the series. He's the second main character, and we all know this, so I definitely do think he deserves to kind of fight alongside Deku while they're going after the main villain. A lot of other people do deserve it too, but I definitely do think Deku and Bakugou are the biggest people that really should be able to kind of fight together to take down Shigaraki. And to wrap up this theory though, I think Bakugou is almost guaranteed to have some sort of second win in this fight, and he's likely going to awaken to new powers. I really wanted to incorporate a lot of the ideas I got from viewers' comments in what I thought that the awakening would do, so that's how I arrived at this. But I do think this awakened ability is subject to change, and it might be different from whatever really does happen in the next couple chapters or whenever he awakens, but I definitely do think he is going to have a second wind, and he is going to have an awakening. And I really do appreciate everybody for commenting and kind of helping me come to this conclusion. It was all you guys that gave me the ideas of what the ability would be, and this is kind of what I arrived on. So I just want to say thank you again for all the comments and supporting the other videos. Although this is the case, if you feel that the awakening ability is going to be something different, definitely let me know in the comments what you think it could be instead of what I thought. Or if you agree with it, let me know in the comments. I want to hear everybody's opinions on the quirk awakening, and I know there's a lot of different ways that the story can kind of pull this, but I definitely do want to hear everybody's opinions on it. With that, I'd like to say thank you for watching the video all the way through, and to definitely consider giving the video a like and subbing to the channel, as I make lots of videos just like this. I really do appreciate any and all support that I get on the channel. Hope that my content can be as best as possible for all of the viewers and subscribers out there. Thank you again for watching and liking and subbing, and I'm out. Peace.